Rihanna, keeping hope alive. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Talking about the struggle, about the fight.
Alrighty. Can you hear me, Mariana? Oh, you muted
Yes.
the mic. Oh,
Oh,
unmuted
no,
the
I
mic.
unmuted you. Yeah.
All
Hello.
right.
Hello.
Let's
Hello.
see. We already got some people in here. Welcome, welcome. Sorry we missed Sunday, guys. Thanks for
It's been a crazy
joining
week.
us. It has.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Trixie.
So, new colored. Yeah, I
All
know.
right.
Isn't it cute? I love it. It's a little
So we're
hottie.
really excited about this episode. We do have a guest today. It is actually one of my dear friends, Sadie. And we are going to be talking about the struggles with losing our loved ones to addiction, mental health, all of those things. So if you've ever loved someone that's battling with addiction, you know the pain isn't just in losing them to death. It's losing them over and over again while they're still alive. It's watching them disappear into their demons, hoping every time they resurface that this will be the moment that they finally break free. It's the cycle of hope, heartbreak, and helplessness, the constant war between wanting to save them and knowing that you just can't. And even when you try to walk away, the guilt lingers because how do you grieve someone who isn't gone but also isn't really there? And then sometimes the cycle ends, not with recovery. The late night phone call, the funeral arrangements, the unbearable reality that there are no more chances and no more relapses, no more maybe this time, and just the silence that they leave behind. And in that silence, you're left grieving not just who they were, but who they could have been, who addiction stole from them and from you.
I feel like that's just so powerful. It's really hard to put into words how losing a loved one to addiction or to their own mental health struggles affects the family. And it's hard because a lot of people don't even know what to do. Do I help? Am I enabling? There's so many questions that people have surrounding that. And even, all of us have personally on this podcast went through that. When you're in the moment, sometimes you just don't know what the right thing is. So we just want to touch a little bit on our girl Sadie's experience today in hopes that it's going to help other people understand, or maybe you have a loved one that's suffering from addiction and you don't know what to do in this moment. I can't promise that we know the right answer for everybody, but we can let you know what our experiences was as addicts and as the ones who were loving an addict.
And we also do have in the thumbnail, it will come on and off, but we have like a national hotline to Narcotics Anonymous. We can also put the AA one. Al-Anon is to support families and friends like that have lost their loved ones or are dealing with their loved ones in their addiction. And then we also have the national helpline for substance abuse and mental health in our thumbnail as well today.
Yes.
So we're going to introduce Sadie. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. We could bring Sadie on first, or I was just going to say hi really quick to the few people in here. How do you want to do that? Are we doing that later?
Yeah, I wanted Sadie to kind of jump on here so she can be in here. Everybody can meet Sadie. She's going to talk a little bit, just share some things with us, and then we'll get to everybody that's in here.
Perfect.
All right.
Hello.
Sadie.
Hello.
Sadie.
Hi, I'm Sadie. I'm going to be on here talking about what I went through when I lost my fiance to addiction. And losing someone to addiction is like watching a person you love drown. While you're powerless to reach them no matter how hard you try, it's a painful reminder that love alone can't save someone from their own demons.
Okay, girl.
Okay.
but it doesn't diminish the deep, lasting impact they leave behind in your heart. It's already starting.
That's okay. Let the emotions flow, girl. That is what we are here for. And it's okay. If you need a minute, you just take a minute, okay?
And I just want to say, like, I'm so proud of you because I've known Sadie for a long time, and this girl's a warrior. She has been through so much trials and tribulations in life, and she's somebody that really just like swallows all the shit. And for her to come on here and speak about this, like, I'm just super proud of you, Sadie. And I think that it's going to help a lot of people and people that are struggling with people they love that are dealing with addictions. So I just want to say that you're one of the strongest women I know, and you're so inspirational for what you've been through and what you just keep pushing through in life.
Love you.
I love you too.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we can go into, let's say hi to everybody, Mariana, and then we'll go into kind of wrapping this what it's going to be about.
Okay.
You have your thing pulled up, Mariana?
I do, yes. Yep, I have it right here now. Okay.
Puka Vista's
Am I-
back. Twyla hopped on here. Go ahead, Mariana.
Okay. We've got Trixie in here. Hello. Gaylin, thank you so much for coming. We have Linda. Ian is in here. Thank you, Ian. John, thank you for being here. We have Rachel. Hello. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here and for offering this safe space for Sadie to come on and tell her story and how it has affected her. As Dee said, like, too many people suffer alone in this silence, and because like it's just hard, and sometimes you don't feel like other people will understand, that love that you still have for somebody who, after you've watched them slowly fade away, or they've done messed up stuff to you because of their addiction, or they're not as dependable anymore. There's so many things, and people don't always understand the capacity of that. So just thank you everybody for being here and creating this safe space for Sadie to come on and share her story today. All right. Dee, am I summarizing this whole?
So I guess we kind of just want to jump on and talk about like some of the like little experiences we've dealt with, because that's one thing that we can relate to in this topic. Me and Mariana and Sadie are recovering addicts. We've been in our addiction. We know it firsthand, and we come from families that are addicts, or the people around us have been addicts, and it's just something that we've been through our entire lives and dealt with firsthand with our loved ones, everything. And we do want to kind of bring awareness to the fentanyl issue that's going around now. If you want to get into a little bit of that, Mariana.
Yes. So
if you want to share something real quick too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just for me, this subject really touches home. I mean, I grew up in a family of addicts, both drug addicts and alcoholics. And I watched the people that I loved slowly diminish in front of me, to the point where like the woman who raised me is now basically like she was homeless for a long time, and she suffers with a lot of mental health as well, which led her into that drug addiction. And, it's just really hard, because as the loved one, no matter, you can't love someone into recovery. You can't beg them into recovery. The only thing that you can do is live your life to the best, like do the next right thing, basically, in hopes, and just pray for them that one day that they will make that choice for themselves. Because at the end of the day, even as the person who was an addict, I didn't stop using until I was really ready, until I decided that this wasn't going to be my life anymore, and that I had to move on from that. And it was so I just feel really passionately about this, and about creating safe places for people to talk about those experiences. And even just, Dee and I have talked about, someday we would really love to open shelters for people struggling and fix the system in the ways that we know that it's wrong and create that safe space for people. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it touches home for me too. Most of my family that I've been around, I grew up with addicts. Both of my parents were in prison or addicted to drugs on the streets. I began my addiction at a very young age. I was incarcerated. I've actually had an overdose. I've almost lost my life to an overdose. I relearned how to walk after an overdose. I was in the hospital for a long time. I had heart failure, kidney failure. So yeah, the fentanyl topic is super huge for me because Sadie's fiance was also my cousin that I grew up with. And I've just watched fentanyl just destroy so many lives. I mean, all the drugs, but the fentanyl that is going around, like it's a huge thing right now. And just to give you a little oversight of how bad the fentanyl problem is currently, in 2023, fentanyl was responsible for over 75,000 overdoses in overdose deaths in the U.S. Fentanyl overdoses have caused 400% increase in deaths among teens since 2019. And many people that are overdosing on fentanyl don't even know that they're taking it. It's being sold in oxycodone, Percocet, Xanax. When I had an overdose, I actually was told by an investigator that they had 3 teenagers that bought marijuana off the streets. They were 13, 14 years old and all died just smoking marijuana off the streets. Like the fentanyl is it's scary.
Dee, were you able to pull that picture in? The one that we
do you want to go over on some of the fentanyl
I'll
and
go
the
over some of these
Narcan too?
Oh yes,
And even
yes.
Sadie, if you wanna talk about some of it too, the Narcan, the fentanyl, because there's a lot, the 50 times stronger, all the things like that. Let me see if I can pull up this picture while you guys are talking.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know what Narcan is, Narcan is available in multiple forms. There's a nasal spray. It's the most common version that people will buy or use because it's super easy to use. There's an injection that is used by hospitals or professionals like EMTs, people like that. And then, there's only 2, I guess. Nasal spray and then the injection. It works within 2 to 3 minutes, but may need multiple doses for fentanyl overdose. So yeah, this picture here that Dee pulled up, I found the other day. So heroin is the street drug, and that is approximately how much it would take for somebody to overdose on it in that vial. The second one is fentanyl, which is a synthetic. And of the fentanyl, that is how much, thank you, babe. That is how much it would take of that fentanyl for you to overdose. Now, carafentanil is another synthetic version of fentanyl that's even stronger. One of the nurse anesthetists at my work told me, and I can't remember if it was the carafentanil or rumifentanil. There's another one that's not pictured here, that it's literally an elephant tranquilizer, you guys. So, yeah, it's incredible when you see it like that. I mean, look at that, just that amount of fentanyl. That's as much as it takes to unalive somebody, you guys. So it's an epidemic and it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just touching the powder form.
So really quick, I just want to, whoops. How do I make it back to 3D? I did not mean to do that. Sorry. I was trying to pull this up. Did I ruin it?
There. How do I
Okay.
do that?
Yeah. Okay.
My bad.
Was it?
Okay.
Bear with us here, people.
We're just girls.
Right. Oh, now we're bubbles.
Now
Where are
we're
we going?
bubbles. Oh, now it's me. Oh, now it's
Oh
Mariana.
my gosh. Wait, make it the 2. Hold on. There.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Okay. So my husband takes a medication called Suboxone for pain management, which is a synthetic opiate, correct? Yeah. Synthetic. Yeah. And just because of the fact that my husband takes that medication and we have a child in the house, now he's very safe with it. He keeps it put up, he keeps it out of the way. However, we're both very aware of the fact that we have a curious 6-year-old, and there's a very real potential that someday she could accidentally touch that. Now we've educated her on it and let her know that it's a medication that daddy takes, but if Hazley were to ever touch it or ingest it in any way, that it would be really bad for her. But we have so this is what the Narcan looks like. It's just this little nasal spray. And we have this on hand in the event that something ever happened. And because we need to let go of that stigma. Like if somebody walked in my house and saw this and asked me about it, there would be no shame for me because I'm being safe. This is what safe people do, right? So we really want to talk about and remove that stigma from having these kinds of things or offering these kinds of things, because this is a life-saving medication.
Even if you go out to the bars or you go out to party or anywhere, people are doing cocaine, people are but like it's common, dude. It's common. And if you want to party, and that's I'm Switzerland. Oh, you do
Right.
you know what I mean? But be safe. Like it's not shameful to carry this, even for other people. Just being aware that the death rate of the fentanyl and how much of it's going around. Do you guys know from 2019 to 2023, 27,000 pounds of fentanyl were confiscated from the border, the U.S. border? Well, that was in just 2023. 27,000 pounds were confiscated from the U.S. border.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the awareness of how much is going around, where it's at.
Also, and I promise Sadie will leave space for you to talk in a sec. I did want to say, so with the Narcan, this is effective. So opiates can last longer in your system than this Narcan does. So say you're in a situation where you believe that a loved one or somebody is overdosed and you do use Narcan on them and they do wake up. You still need to call 911 and get medical assistance as soon as possible. And you know what? Your loved ones might try and talk you out of it, and they might because they're afraid and they don't want to be seen. But this is a temporary life-saving measure. It will not bring you back forever. So it is very important that if you ever are in a situation where you do need to use this, that you still immediately call 911.
It only blocks your, what are they called? Like opioid receptors. For 2 to 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. 2 to 3 minutes, that's the longest it's going to block those receptors from taking you out of that overdose and to let you breathe again. So you need to seek medical attention right away. So,
and also, if anyone wants to know about the legality of it, anybody can administer Narcan. It is not, you do not need to be a paramedic. You do not need to have a license. You would not get in trouble for administering this medication to somebody.
And Rachel said too, in Helena, the courthouse actually has a Narcan vending machine. It's free to the public. They should have them everywhere. I know that It's becoming more of a thing. I did have something pulled up too to show you where you can get Narcan. A lot of hospitals give it out. There's call centers you can call. I mean, there's a salon downtown Vegas that gives out free fentanyl test strips, Narcan, Plan B, like all of it, due to people that don't have money to get this type of stuff but still want to be safe.
Yeah.
So
And then, Sadie, do you have the email? I know. Do you have the email pulled up?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go over right underneath the little red flashy light where it says right above that, it says state laws. Do you want to kind of start there and touch on that?
About the state laws?
Yeah, and then go down into the symptoms of opioid overdose.
Yeah, so the state laws, it says most U.S. states have the Good Samaritan laws, which protects the people from legal consequences if they are there when somebody overdoses. So like if they're also high, they can't get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
And if someone is experiencing these symptoms, use Narcan immediately. I had to use Narcan on Dom. I had to use 2 of them. Out of these, there's unconscious, unresponsive, slow or no breathing. He was gasping for air. He was turning blue. It was he came home like 5 a.m. because I had to go to work at 7, and we had the kids at home. And he came in. He told me he loved me, laid down, and started to overdose. And I think that it was the scariest thing that I'd ever dealt with in my life. And when one didn't work, I was freaked out.
Panicking.
Because I was like, there has to be another one in this house. Something has to be happening. But they'll go cold. They'll be falling out. So you'll want to check for like their breathing. You'll want to tilt their head back and insert the nasal spray into one nostril. This wasn't the case for me. He was on top of me on his stomach, and he was way bigger than I was. I could not turn him over. Sometimes you just have to do it and hope for the best. But luckily the second one worked. Near the end of his addictions, it took 6 Narcans to bring him back.
Wow.
So it's in the fentanyl, the carfentanil, it's all becoming super resistant to Narcan too. And I think that's something that people need to be acknowledged. Aware of, yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that it's smart that everyone carries the Narcan on them. I think that every establishment, especially bars, should have Narcan on them because we all know what happens in the bathrooms. And mixing alcohol with the fentanyl will also increase your chances of having an overdose.
Okay.
Fentanyl overdoses may require multiple doses of Narcan due to the extreme potency. Yeah, I think that's just about it on that.
Yeah. Yep.
So Sadie, will you start us out with this kind of like how you and Dominic met?
Yeah, so I was 19 and he was about to turn 20, and he walked into my work, and I was a casino floor runner, and we made eye contact, and it was like the movies, and my whole body went numb, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah.
And it was great, and I got really busy, and I like went, circled back around to go talk to him, chat it up, and he was gone. He had already left. It was maybe 5 minutes of time. And so then when I got off my shift, I went to this other casino in town to go gamble for a little bit while I had to waste some time, and he was there on my machine. And we just kept making eye contact, and it was, we were young and it was fun. And then later that night, he messaged me on Facebook, and that's just kind of where it went. And we hung out, and we dated pretty quickly. And we both were using at the time. But it was also a time in my life where I was like ready to be done using and done with the game life. Like I was just over it. Right. But he was not.
And at this point, you've already developed this attachment to Dominic, right? You already love Dominic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty quick, like I'd never had that feeling with anybody else. Like that
He's
was
a
like
lovable
my
guy.
soul. What?
I said he's a lovable guy was his first words. What's up, fucker?
He's funny. He's funny.
He's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 3 months
So
into
take us
that.
into.
No, it's okay. You go.
I was just gonna say, take us into you getting clean and sober and that relationship, how it transpired.
So when I decided to that I was over it, I couldn't handle the psychosis anymore. And because I was trying to still live a normal life. I had a job, I did normal life stuff, so I was over it. And I kind of just told him to leave me alone, kick rocks. I was like, even though I loved him, I also had to think about myself too. And he never left me alone. He'd show up at my work. He'd call me when he was running out of bushes. When he needed a safe place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
He literally ran out of bushes in Montana City. It was wild. Yeah, so I was his safe person. He didn't have to use drugs around me. He didn't have to drink around me. He could sleep safely at my house, and no one knew where he'd be. And I was okay being that safe person for him because I loved him very, very much. And I didn't know how to help him because I hardly knew how to help myself. I was new to being sober. And so sometimes I would just leave him where he was because I couldn't handle it at the time. And so about that went on for a couple of years until I moved to Billings. And then he ended up going to prison for a couple of years. So we didn't talk for a few years there.
So I just want to go back a little bit with you getting clean. It's and dealing with the chaos that comes with addiction. But when we're in our addiction too, we normalize so much chaos and normalize things that we don't normalize when we're clean, right? So
Yeah.
How is that dealing with that chaos while you're trying to stay clean for yourself? Because obviously there was chaos coming from him and what he's normalizing in his own life and what he's bringing into your life while you're getting clean.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that getting clean is its own this thing. And I think because I was so young and I was still at a party stage, I was done with the meth and heroin. That doesn't mean that I was done with the coke or with the drinking or so my clean was just getting off the meth and heroin and not being
the hard stuff
on drugs every day.
Yeah.
And I was I don't know, I thrive in chaos. I think I kind of liked it. I was young, the drama was fun a little bit,
Holding on to
Right.
lifestyle a little bit. Yeah.
I wanted him safe, and every single time I tried to be if you just want to get help right now, we can figure it out. And a little piece of him always wanted to, but it was easier to hide how he felt about himself behind everything.
And did he express kind of his darker moments of why he couldn't get clean, or was it just the drugs? Was there, some mental health going on?
He definitely had mental health issues. I think a lot of us do, but his stemmed a lot from home life. I know that. There were a lot of obstacles put in his way. And it started at a very young age. The addiction started young. And when you think about that with a person, that is a child. My brain wasn't fully developed until I was 25.
Yep.
That is a child. So when a child starts these things that alter their brain at such a young age, it's even harder to help them when they're adults. And it's also harder to explain to people, he had no chance.
Yes. I absolutely agree with that. Like, I think it's really hard sometimes because I mean, because it's not just getting sober, right? I mean, it would be so great if that was just it, but you are relearning and rewiring the neural pathways in your brain that you've been wiring for years. These are the choices you've been making, the roads you've been going down, the people you're comfortable around. Like when you're like in active addiction, I personally avoided all of my family, all my everybody that was like, I wasn't, and I was never like, I never went and like robbed my parents. I never like I just literally they lived in a separate box in my brain. And unfortunately, there was years at a time where I truly didn't think about anybody but myself, you know? And so that's where it's hard. Like people underestimate, like when you look at the statistics, 1% of people who inject recover. That's like I don't even know what the one in, however many millions of people would be, but I mean it's the statistics are against you, your family's against you because and then when you get out of that family, right, and you start thinking better and you start improving your life, you've just lost your whole family now because you're on a different plane than them. You don't operate in the same place as them anymore. So it's not just grieving the loss of the drugs, of the connection, like you're literally basically losing your whole life in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what you said about addiction too, like being away from your family too, I would get so mad when people would comment on things, but I stayed away from everybody, but I'm like, I'm not hurting nobody. I don't even come around you when I'm high. I don't, but like the worry, you don't think about those things of how many people you're hurting when you're in your addiction because you're having a fucking good time. You know what I mean? I ain't thinking about reality. I saw this clip on one of like the reels and some guy, I think, asked this girl, what's the hardest drug you've ever taken? And she said reality. Because it's hard to come back into like all the things that we've experienced, been through, what we've normalized, and then come in and be like a good member of society and do things right. While you have all these emotions that you haven't felt in years either, just flooding you. You know what I mean? And the people you've hurt, you have to take accountability and responsibility for the dumb shit you've ever done, and it's a lot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Sadie, you said that Dominic went to prison. He was in prison for a couple of years.
Yep, he was in federal prison for, what was it, 2.5 years, maybe? 2.5 years.
What was that like for you and like and the family? Like, the kids, all of that.
Did you feel a sense of relief when he got incarcerated?
Well, the first time that he went, I was living my own life. I was in Billings. I was in an abusive relationship. I got pregnant. I was just living my life. And then, I don't know, COVID hit. I moved back home. I guess he tried to have his sister and his friend get a hold of me, but they were like, she's pregnant. I'm not going to do that while he was in prison. But I mean, I never heard anything from him. And then it wasn't when he got out, he messaged me on Facebook like immediately when he was in the pre-release. And that's just kind of where it came back to
started
life.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now at this point he's clean because he's in the pre-release,
sober,
right?
And he looks so good.
You're like, ooh, okay.
You're all dang. You got that way
He was
on
all
you.
like,
We're working
they
out.
work
You're
out
healthy.
a lot, and
Right.
he was sober and
Well,
he
and
looked. I was like, yeah, tatted up.
He said, "I'll take one."
Yeah.
People
Serious.
underestimate
Like,
though,
okay.
like what it's like because when you watch somebody slowly drop deeper and deeper into active addiction, their face changes, their eyes change. You literally watch, it's like their soul leaves their body. So when you get to see them sober again, it's like I literally have goosebumps just thinking about it.
Life.
Yeah, it's almost like that, like how you described like when you first saw him, that like feeling, you're like, oh my God, there he is,
Yeah.
So what was that like? Like how did things go from that point? Was he like planning on getting out and doing better? What were those conversations you guys were having?
Yeah, we just talked every day for a really long time. Like we were just best friends because he was my best friend. Like when push came to shove, he always pulled through. But I was like, I have my kid now. Like, when we talked about dating and stuff again, and I was like, I have my son, and it's like I'm not living anything like that anymore. Absolutely not. There's no question about it. And he's like, I don't want to. I want to do this, this, and this, like all this stuff. And so I was like, great, this is awesome. And he was on house arrest for the first few months, so he had to be good, right? And everything was great. And he loved my son like his own. And he was great. He took the dad role really quickly and is just an amazing person sober. He was just amazing sober. But once he got that anklet off, the drinking started. And I told him and I said, the drugs and the drinking, you don't do them, they do you.
Yep.
And you go too hard. And I can't put up with that. So like if that's gonna be the thing, then I don't want any part of this because I can't go back down that road. And he's like, no.
How long did it take you? Sorry, how long did it take you to set that boundary? Like how long did the behavior go on before you like found the courage to be like, okay, like we can't do
I found out
this?
he took a drink.
Really good.
I did not care. I know this man.
You had your baby. Yeah, you know exactly what his addiction looks like.
I know, and I know alcoholism to a full degree too well. I just didn't want any part of it. I'm like, I don't want this. This is not the life I want to live. I have my kid for him. His dad is not around. There's not somebody that I can rely on. So if you can't be a person I can rely on, we don't need to do this. And I said all this before we moved in, and then everything was fine again. Then we moved in together. I think it took about 2 weeks. 2 weeks for him to start going out all the time with the construction guys that he worked with, the people that he did fentanyl with the first time. And then I think it was 2 weeks after that I found out he cheated. So I'm living with this man who's already, and the mess started again. And I was like, we've been living together for 2 fucking months. 2 months. So now I'm going through everything in my head of, I need a second job. I can't rely on him. It's about me and my child. What the hell?
And then how dare you?
A few months of us living together but not being together because I knew him too well. And I said, we're just not going to be together because it's going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
So he did who and whatever. And I was just like, I don't care. I know everything. I know a lot of people out there have tried to come to me after he's passed and be like, did you know? And I said, yeah. He told me everything. He didn't hide anything from me. But I also knew he wasn't in the place to be in a relationship with me either. And at a certain point, he knew that too. And it was just drinking and meth for a few months. And it wasn't until he was working at Summit Roofing up in Great Falls. They were, up there for 4 days a week. And they would drink heavily after work, and he can't handle himself. And the minute he can do drugs or whatever is when he does them. And that's where his fentanyl addiction started.
Did you know right away that it had like switched?
Yeah.
That seems like his whole mindset is completely different because when he was sober, he's this loving man. He's a good dad. And once he gets on the drinking train, the drugs at all, his whole mentality and mindset would switch, right?
Oh, with meth and drinking, he was really mean. Really mean and very emotional. He was very emotional. That's where all of his traumas came out, especially when he was drinking. When he was on fentanyl, he was nice. He wanted to be around. He didn't want to do the fentanyl to feel as good as he did, but he felt like he was his best version of himself.
Mm.
And I knew I knew what he was doing. I knew it was an opiate because that's my drug of choice. So I feel like I can just sense that. I know
Right.
a crackhead.
Right.
They're okay. They're cool.
Right.
They jump around, whatever.
Right.
But he naturally had bigger pupils, so I could never really pinpoint if he was high on an upper. But the minute that he did a downer, his pupils were this big. I was
Yeah.
like, you don't have small pupils.
Yeah.
And you're talking to me and you're doing that. So like, what is it? What are you doing? And I found out probably 2 weeks after he'd been doing it because I knew that it was something else. And I said, you didn't like heroin, so it's not heroin. What are you doing? And when he told me it was fentanyl, I told him he was going to die from that. And then our kids were going to lose their dad. And he said, I'm not going to die. Promised me for a year he wasn't going to die. And I think at one point I thought he was immortal too.
Mm-hmm. You do, because it's like, how is this like, because you're something that, I don't know, just my experience with a loved one in addiction. What's so unfortunate about this story is that there's thousands of people with this story. Like there's so many things that you've said that remind me so much of my relationship, my first marriage, and like me trying to save this person who but in my case it was a little different because truly I just don't think he wanted to change at the end of the day. But it's just so hard because you're going through so much alone. And like I'm honestly so proud of you for setting those boundaries so fast because it took me years. I mean, I was in active addiction, and then once I got sober, he started to resent me for being sober and creating this life for me and now our daughter, And so it was just like, it's so hard to stand up for yourself and to set those boundaries. And you did such a good job too of just being like, nope, and not exposing your kid to that and all of the things, it's just so hard.
It is. It was a challenge, but I felt fortunate in the fact that like he knew he couldn't be around the kids
Right.
if he was like that. He never stole from us. He never pawned our stuff. He never did anything like that. He really thought that he was the best version of himself. And he didn't feel that pain anymore. And I understand that. And it's so hard because I'm like, I understand where his addict brain is at, but I as a mom, as somebody who's sober, I'm like, how the fuck could you do that?
I know.
You gotta love people from a distance because once you see that you're not gonna let this generational curse come into your son's life, and not to mention you just went through like a very abusive relationship with your son's father as well, and to like just not be heroed by somebody and not take their shit too, and it's because Dom's a great human when he's sober,
So great.
he's loving, he's funny, he's charismatic, he's a hard worker, like there's so much great qualities about Dom that we could go on and on about, but just to show like how active addiction changes people so drastically too is important, because a lot of people are like, oh, look at this is who they were, like that's not how we're going to remember these people either,
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, sorry, I got sidetracked, but going back from what you just went through with your son's father and then going in to somebody that you loved dearly that is in an active addiction isn't very great to you. Like, I mean, you handled it so well. You did.
I know. I just
you did what you still stuck by his side too, but you did put your arm out and loved him from a distance, and that's all we really can do when it comes to relationships like that.
Right.
Yeah, and well, like when he would need money money for gas or money for or whatever. Like it just came to a point where I had to like, and his mom is amazing, and I feel very fortunate that she's still in our lives. But I had to like message her and be like, you can't give him cash anymore. If he needs gas, take his truck to the gas station. If he
Yeah.
needs food, which he doesn't because we have food,
Yeah.
then buy him food.
Yeah.
You know, like I made
You
sure
said
that
he
he
don't
was
even
taken care of,
eat.
but I wasn't going to give him cash to go buy the next pill that was going to kill it.
Right. Right. And
Because
good for
how
you.
do you live through 7 overdoses in a year? Because that's what happened before he went back to prison.
It took 7 times before they sent him back.
His PO didn't even know that he was using.
Oh, wow.
They didn't test.
That's
for fentanyl.
insane.
Oh,
7
was it during
times?
COVID or no?
So he was in prison during COVID, and then this was 2023. So he got out in 2021.
Oh, okay.
And it was 2023. So he had been in this addiction for about a year with fentanyl, and he ended up getting a DUI. He was drinking and crashed his truck while trying to reach for his phone, and he got a DUI for that. And then so his PO came in and was, obviously they had to go to court for it and everything because that's a legal charge and it's a violation of probation. And he went to court. Fucked up. Just not well at all. So his PO came by and he asked how he was doing, and I said, he's never been in treatment, and I think that would be really helpful right now. I think that's what he needs. He needs some help. He needs therapy. He needs treatment. He needs somebody to help him. Because it can't be me, because I've tried. I tried to get him into many outpatient treatments. I tried literally everything. I was like, we can't keep going like this. Something's going to happen. And then it did. And then, to me, I'm like, how did you not know? How do you not know what it looks like when somebody's fucking high in front of you? How do you not know that? You're a PO, a federal PO, like not even just a state one. How do you not know? Anyways, he said that his PO said that his main goal was to be rehab. And it wasn't. They sent him back to prison. In Prump, he went to Prump, Nevada, and then to Lompoc, California. And he never made it home.
Yeah, and that, going through the loop of trying to get him to go to treatment and trying to save him, but trying to save you too. And then you just feel powerless because the system takes him, puts him in with a bunch of fucking drug addicts, people that are far worse. You know what I mean? They learn connections. They learn different ways to get it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's not
you can get
helpful
high
to be
in prison
incarcerated
way
anymore.
easier than you can get high out here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And why is putting somebody through more trauma? Why is that the option?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and go ahead.
Also, I just have such a problem with this because because his PO had to do like a check before he came back home or whatever of our apartment, which he had already been to multiple times. And I said to him, he told me he's taking a bus. And if that's the case, I need to fly down there so I can get him and fly him back. And he said, no, he's going to fly. And he was very adamant. And I didn't get to talk to Dominic for 2 weeks before he was released because he was in the SHU. And so for 2 weeks, his PO wasn't responding. I was like, are you sure he's getting a plane ride? Are you sure he's getting a plane ride? Because it's stupid to give a fucking drug addict a bus ticket to get home states away. That's stupid.
And he hasn't even got the help he needs. He hasn't been in treatment and he hasn't got any sort of help. They just stuck him in prison and let him sit his time. There's no healing from it. There's no counseling. There's no treatment. There's no, you know what I mean?
Well, he was supposed to go into
Dom and... Sorry, go ahead.
He was supposed to go into 6 months worth of treatment when he got back home. His bed date was the same date that he was released. It takes a day and a half
And
on a
he's
bus to
states
get back up
away.
there. States away.
Like,
Lompoc,
he wouldn't
California,
have
the
even
end of
been back.
California. He
This is how
died in Barstow, California in a bathroom. 2 hours after I got a phone call from him.
So heavy. And I feel like this
I'm,
is
like, now
such a
trying to
common
avoid this.
experience. Go ahead.
Our system's broken and it's not made to reform addicts, and they're just looked at as the scum of the earth, and it's I think the most disheartening thing.
On that, really quick, I have to give me 1 second to Google this. Because okay, this will put this into perspective for some people, okay, who are maybe don't have a loved one in the system or have never experienced this. So, Core Civic is a okay, it's they own all the private prisons, like all but 2 in the United States, okay? So, in 2024, Core Civic reported a total revenue of 2.0 billion, net income 68.9 million. And I don't know what that last number means. So I'm telling you, I mean, this is a place that how they fund and build all these buildings and these prisons, and then the state pays them to house these people. So I mean, when you're talking about it, like we're talking about it from the experience of a loved one, these people who own these places are talking about decimals. They're talking about money because inmates are a dollar sign. In America, it has
They
become
got,
an
like,
industry.
what was it, $15,000 every time he was moved?
And it's an epidemic because this is the problem. Even if Dom was in a prison where they say they have a treatment program, right? Okay, they can go to this class and sit there for an hour and it's like an AA meeting. There's no therapist. There's nobody there helping them work through that trauma. And then not only that, if they admit to things that the Department of Corrections doesn't already know about them, congratulations, you just bought yourself more time and more programming. It's there's no confidentiality between it. It is built to make money, not to recidivize people. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know he was high at certain points while he was there, because he would go
Mhm.
into the drug psychosis and the being really mean. I think he was probably meth, if I had to put a dot on it, because
Yeah.
he was scary when he was on meth. It was a scary thing. It was one time he told me that he stood over me with a gun for 2 hours while I slept.
Wow.
It was scary. Like, it got to the point of me, like, putting bars in the windows and buying child locks for my door so that he couldn't get in. And so, like, I knew he was using in prison because he brought that up, and he's like, I should have took you out. Should have done that.
Dang.
And it's beyond me why the guards even let that go through the messaging system, because I know they look at everything. But, like, it's not a good place, and it's just they keep it. They make it so that they keep him coming back. They don't ever get the
Right.
help that they need. Because why didn't he have rehab the first time? Why had he never had rehab but been in jail so many times? Like, there's so many questions that I have, because I feel like this could have been prevented.
Now,
Yeah.
did the Department of Corrections or what? How did they handle this? There was no contact. There was no nothing, or
No.
how was that handled?
No, and it took I think repeated calls from his mom to his PO, and for him to say he was supposed to get home on his own cognitives. And that's it. Sorry for your loss.
And just to clarify, they told you could not go get him. That wasn't
No, he didn't
allowed.
say that. He told me that he was going to
Oh.
be fine. Like he did the
Oh,
first
okay.
time that he left prison. He
Oh,
didn't
and
even
then they
know
put him
how
on a
he was getting
bus.
transported back up here.
he went to a bus station with a bunch of other inmates that were getting released.
Yeah,
Mm.
they gave him a bus ticket. And how they identified him was through his prison ID, because that's the only thing he had on him.
Well, and to a lot of people, I mean, first-hand experience of being incarcerated and in the system. We've talked about this on our other podcasts of like, people don't look at you as people in there. You're cattle in a like it's
Herding cattle.
you're herding cattle. You're just like you're another number. You're another statistic. You're another drug addict. You're another POS. I'm trying not to cuss so much because John be calling me out. So, but
I saw
that's
that.
like I know. I mean, society often debates whether addiction is a choice or a disease. And on one hand, some view it as a personal failing, believing that people just struggle with addiction because they choose to engage in harmful behaviors. And on the other, addiction is increasingly recognized as a disease. It's rooted in genetics, trauma, brain chemistry, and it makes it much harder to control than just a simple choice. And to have like a shift in understanding in our society that allows for more compassion, more treatment programs, treatment approaches to these addicts, because there are some people that don't believe they deserve better, they don't want to change, or they don't believe that they can. But the minute that we give one person hope and looks in themselves, because when you believe in yourself, that's when your whole world changes. And being able
Absolutely.
to provide that and giving them resources to allow them to feel that about themselves. Because I don't know, most people that I know that have been in their addiction, there's a point where they looked in the mirror and they didn't have hope. I didn't care if I lived or died when I was in my addiction. Oh, it's a roller coaster. I didn't.
Yeah. I hoped my addictions took me out every day I fell asleep.
Same. I was like,
won't be no
it's almost like what you said about like you started thinking he might be immortal too. You really almost feel that way at times because it's like you're doing all this reckless stuff almost that's why I say like I was suicidal with my lifestyle. Like I did not care if I lived or died. I did reckless stuff just like, and I don't even know why. I really genuinely can't tell you why now. And it's just hard because it's like you believe at some point you're like, well, shit, I'm on top. Like I was in a rollover accident because the person that I was with was under the influence. They were super crossfaded, which for anyone in the chat that doesn't know what that means, this person was using meth, heroin, alcohol, all mixed together, doing it all at the same time. And that's not truly honestly, from an addict perspective, I will tell you as an active addict will tell you, as long as you like, if you do both an upper and a downer, as long as you do them like together all the time, I guess it like they have a certain tolerance to it. I just, at the end of the day, you're asking for trouble, in my opinion. Yeah. But he was super crossfaded and we were on this road and it was very windy and very like it was just like one of those small 2 lanes, and he didn't realize the corner was going to be such a sharp turn and he was going fast and we slid into a ditch. And it was one of those ones that has like the like dipped, kind of like the irrigation ditches here in Billings. So we like slid into this ditch, hit the side. The car flipped 3 times. I was sitting in the front seat with no seatbelt on and my feet on the dashboard. The airbags didn't go off. I stayed right in my seat somehow. I have no idea how it happened. I think maybe I was just like under the influence enough to like be relaxed as well. But like, it's crazy. I'm like, there's so many ways that could have been a completely different story. And I can't tell you other than like, I truly believe, and I don't know if you've had experiences like that in your active addiction, but like for me, like I've truly felt at times that like my papa passed away when I was young. I was 16 and I've always kind of felt that like he was there, like he's like a guardian angel to me. Like I felt like he just sat in that car and wrapped his hands around me and kept me right there, you know? And it's crazy to have those moments now. And like, I thank God every day that I didn't die, that I get to raise my child, because I see life so different now. I see so much beauty in everything. And raising a child has been the most beautiful thing for me, because I didn't have the greatest childhood, and now I get to create and teach my daughter all those things that nobody taught me, and it helps heal me every day, you know?
Yes, I do know. I think that's the most rewarding thing about being a parent.
Yeah. But okay, so with Dom, do you feel like there was like a cycle for him? Because I feel like that's definitely been my experience, where it's like these high highs where they're like, oh, I don't want to get sober. This is great. I'm living my best life. And then there's like that crash where like they're coming home, they're not doing good. And they're like, okay, you're right. I think I do need help. And then there's like that conversation where you finally think they might go to treatment. You've convinced them. And on the drive, they hop out of the car, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we had like he wasn't high all the time. He would come down,
Right.
and it was 10 times worse than any heroin come down I've ever seen in my life. I have never really seen him be affected by anything he ever did. And so watching him for like days on end not be okay was really tough. But then he would do good for a while, like a few weeks. And like I did get him to go to one of the outpatient offices, and we did talk and we did make a plan, but then that fell through. And we
Mhm.
did talk about him being sober and the fact that he wanted to be and he didn't want to rely on this. And I was like, okay, well, we probably need to get you help. You might need to like be medicated or something. We're all a little crazy. But it was this like roller coaster of I'm getting sober, I'm gonna do really good, we're here, and then he'd have like a drink and it would all be
Mhm.
gone for
Yep.
weeks. Like, or
Yep.
we went out to dinner and we had a really great night, and we came home and he's like, all right, I have to go to someone's house. And I'm like, why?
Please don't.
Why do you have to do that? You've been sober all week. Why do I have to go into our house with our kids and
Right.
you're going to be gone all
come
night
hang.
doing whatever?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Right.
And that just
Like, we're
shows how
doing good.
severe.
Why do you have to go and fucking ruin that?
Right.
And then you're just the anger with it, because that just shows how like severe addiction it, like one substance that alters your mind. Because the minute, even when you're clean, and if you use again, you use any substance, whether it be alcohol, whatever, your brain goes to the same point of when you got clean, before the minute you got clean. Your brain goes right into that mode.
Yeah. And it's hard because like one minor thing would set him off. And he'd be like immediately just hating himself.
Right.
Or he'd be like, I literally thought about this one thing I did 3 years ago all day, and that's the reason why I got high.
Mhm.
Or like it just was, he constantly battled himself.
Yeah.
And it was as angry as I was, and I know I came off very angry to him all the time. I basically was probably
How
the
could you
coolest
not?
bitch
Right.
he had ever dealt with, because I also struggled with staying sober while watching him.
Right.
Mhm.
It wasn't just him. I watched him do the drug of, like, if he was high on dope, it would have been one thing. But to watch him fall out while we're talking gave me the biggest itch I think
Mhm.
ever. Because I just wanted to also be there. Because
Mhm.
I also would like to take all my pain away too.
Right.
Especially all the pain that he caused.
Right.
Like, and no one really in my life knew that any of this was going on either, so I kept it all in
Inside.
here. Because I didn't want anyone to know. Because I didn't want anyone to think that like this is who he was. Because it wasn't who he
Right.
was. And it's really
Right.
easy to make like the excuse, I guess, that like when someone's under the influence.
Yeah, you
That's
don't
not
want
who they
anybody
really
to make
are.
him out to be a monster or anything because you know you loved him on a different level. You knew who he was deep down inside and who sober Dom was, and you don't want people to think ill of your partner and who you loved. Like I think we've all struggled with that, and why we've held on to people like that as well is because we do protect them and we do try to do we lose ourselves trying to make them not lose themselves.
Right. So on that, so they always say, especially when uh me and Dee were in Passages, I feel like their little spiel, because there's the pre-release and then the prison is like there's the pre-release, and then literally basically in the same parking lot there's the mortuary, and then a block down there's the prison here in Billings. So when you were in Passages, they would be like, it's jails, institutions, or death. You're either going to end up down the road or worse off in the parking lot, like next door. And it's like this spiel that they would always give you. And unfortunately, with Dom, the aftermath did end up being that he passed away. What was it like for you getting that call? Like, what was your experience?
We had moved my work schedule around a little bit because, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. He called
Okay.
at, what was it? 1 a.m. our time, so 12 a.m. his time on the 3rd. And he called to say that he was riding the bus from LA to Barstow. Or he was getting on the bus at LA. I don't know how he got to Barstow. I couldn't find one bus route that took him through there. So it always confused me. But 2 hours out of LA is Barstow, and that's where he died. And so he called me and he's like, don't forget, I'm going to be in Butte at midnight, like on the 4th, basically. And I said, no, I know. I'm going to work tomorrow and I'm going to get off at 8 p.m. Your mom and your sister are going to have ACE, and then I'm going to come, like, drive down at 11 p.m. to go get you in Butte. And he was just like, okay, be good. Like he always said to me. I said, you too, you better not do anything. You better make it home. And he said, I will. And I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning when I was getting ready, about to head out to work, because I worked from, I think, 12 to 8. And Shauna had texted me and she said, did Dom try to call you? And I said, no, which I thought in my head was weird because I was his first call, always.
And
I was the only one to talk to him.
Explain who Shauna is?
Oh, Shauna is Dom's mom. So and I thought, well, that's weird because he always calls me, but like he already talked to me twice and maybe he hadn't talked to her yet. And it was actually the coroner trying to contact her, but we didn't know. And so around 4, or maybe it was 5:15. So during this time in between, Trin, Dom's sister, went to go get his daughter 3.5 hours away and drive back and pick up my son from daycare. So all the kids were together when he got here so that he could at least see everyone before he had to go for his bed date. And I always think maybe if I had told him that his daughter was coming, maybe he would have made it home. But I was at work and it was 5:15 and she texted me. She said I needed to come home right away. And I said, well, I'm the only one working. I can't just come home. I was a casino floor runner. Like I was the only one on shift. And so I had 20 people in there. I had a full casino. Machines were popping. Like everything's happening. So I called her while I was in the cage off of the work phone because I thought something had happened where like Aston couldn't get picked up, like something so trivial, And I called her and like I knew the minute that she got on the phone because she had been crying, and I very loudly said, don't tell me that he's dead. I can't. He can't be dead. I'm supposed to go pick him up in 7 hours. I felt really embarrassed because everyone in the casino was looking at me at this point. And I'm like, I literally have to fucking work. I just found out the love of my life has died. And so I think I took care of like 2 people. And then I went into the office and I just like fell to the ground and I called my boss and I said, he died and I need you to come here. Because I have to leave. I can't do this. I was cashing out tickets as I'm falling. Like it's so embarrassing. And I like left. She got there. She finished all my paperwork, put my tips in my purse for me, like did everything for me. So I did it. And as I was leaving, I was literally thinking like, I'm not gonna be able to explain this when I walk into Shauna's house and he's sitting there. That was my thought. I was like, he can't be dead. This is a joke. Like I'm gonna walk in and he's gonna say, I gotcha, because that was who he was.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I saw all 3 kids and he wasn't there. I lost it and I ran out. And I said, can you just keep my kid? Because I can't do this. I can't look at his child right now and like have her know that he's not coming back. And that's the kids are, as much as I miss him, I think the kids are the hardest part of this all. Because my son doesn't understand. He doesn't get it. And he gets mad when I say that Daddy Dom can't come home. Because I personally believe that he still sees him. So he tells me all these new things all the time. Or like knew when Hartley's birthday was. Something I'd never talked to my 4-year-old about, because how would he ever remember that?
Which is Dominic's daughter.
Yeah.
Harley, yeah.
And I didn't just lose him either. I lost my whole family. I lost a kid that's not mine, that I love like my own. I lost everything that I ever thought my life would be. It was the worst moment of my life. And I've gone through some really shitty shit. You know, it was like the cruelest thing that could have ever happened. Because even if we would have not been together because he could never get it together, that still would have always been my best friend. That would have still always been my person that I could go to, because that was my person, and you really don't realize that until you can't ever
Call them.
again.
Well,
Yeah.
that's who your son looked at as dad too, you know, and
That is still
not
his dad.
having
If you ask
him
me
a
who
part
his
of
dad
Ace,
is,
and then not. That's it's Dominic, and then also like Dom's daughter. You know, I know that she was a big part of your life as well, and you protected her, and
it was me and the kids
that's
all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, that's my son's sister. And now I don't get her on holidays anymore, and I don't. It's hard.
Yeah. Did you not the baby mom, like his baby mom, are you guys, does she not allow you like to see the kids at all now, or the daughter?
I
Or do you
think that
get to
there's
see
so
her?
much drama within the family ordinance of everything that like she lets me see her when I reach out. And I'm very grateful
Right.
for that. It's just not the same.
Right.
And I think that's
Right.
probably the extent that I'll talk about that on.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a lot with that one too,
Yeah.
and even going back to like Dominic's childhood, I just kind of want to give you like a perspective of like. Now, I won't go into a lot. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to come on here and offend or bash anybody or blame anybody. That is not why I'm saying this at all. But Dom was my cousin growing up. He was my little cousin. We were 3 weeks apart. And I watched a lot of dysfunction. I lived in a very dysfunctional family. And and I watched dysfunction in Dominic's life. and the rival between parents and how cruel that some of the family could be towards him, his mother, because once you're out of the family that I was a part of, it's a crap show, John, crap show. But no, like really, it is. There's a lot to do of not feeling good enough and not feeling like you're going to meet expectations, and you have to be this man. You're not allowed to show emotions because he gonna get his ass beat if he does. You ain't gonna act like a little, like, you're not. And that was the mentality that he came from. So to be able to, like, I'm so grateful that Dom met you, because I do feel like he had somebody to, like, express to and release. But he was fighting so many demons in his own head that it was just too late, But I'm really grateful that he got to experience your love, Sadie. And I know that what you went through is just, it's unimaginable. It sucks. It's hurt. Like, it's just like the storm kept hitting you. Like, I watched you go through this and then this and then this and then this. You couldn't catch a break. You couldn't breathe, and you just kept pushing. I just want to say, like, after this, Sadie was working 2 jobs, taking care of her baby by herself, dealing with her BS with baby daddy, went to school, got her education, got her license to be an esthetician. Like, the things that you have dealt with and hurt over, and how you just kept it pushing is crazy. You didn't even get a chance to heal. Yeah. You didn't get
Instead of doing drugs because I couldn't get high again, I just made it so I couldn't feel.
And a lot of people aren't even that strong. You know what I mean? There's points where you're like, God, I'm gonna do it once, and then it's a downhill spiral because you forget. You've been clean for so long, you forget how easy it takes you.
Well, and I
how
feel like
your brain goes to that.
I have to give all of the credit to my son, because if I didn't have him, who knows where I'd be right now, to be honest.
Right.
When I say he saved my life in more ways than one, I mean it. And he saves me every day still. Because it's like I can go through the worst of the worst, but the minute I see him, it's like,
yeah, it all fades away.
I can keep doing this.
Right. It's almost like you, and not in like, because there is people who do this in an unhealthy way. I'm not saying like, put your life into your kid to create your happiness, but it's almost the same as like that high, or that when you first saw Dom, like that feeling of just like, okay, it gives you, it's like you plug into the wall and it's like, okay, that's what I'm doing this for. It's like your motivation, And I say that all the time. Like I very genuinely cannot tell you what I would be doing with my life if I didn't have my daughter. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have done the inner work. I wouldn't have done all those things because I did that so that I didn't traumatize my kid the ways that I was traumatized, because that's what we do. You have to be willing to admit that if you're going to learn and grow. If you don't fix it, it continues and continues and continues. And now you're putting not only your pain, but all your family's pain, all this onto your child. And that's how you break the cycle. That's what we're all doing here. And I feel so blessed to have met, and I continue to meet, even like with you, Sadie, you and I have never really had any conversations before today, but like, I just feel so blessed to know so many amazing women who have fought so hard, because I don't know. It's just hard to like find that many genuine people in this world. I really struggled with that for a long time. And like, it's not like you just are getting on here, like talking about this, like, cause you feel sad for yourself. It's because you want to raise awareness, cause this isn't something that you really talk about often. And the same with Dee and her story. It's not something that gets brought up or even spoken to about with people often, because it's so deeply personal. And it touches you to such a deep level,
Well, and I feel like people expect like as long as like time keeps going that like you should not it shouldn't affect you as much.
Right.
And
You just learn how to
like
deal with the pain more, you know, but the pain never goes away and it never gets easier. You just learn how to deal and cope
Right.
with it better.
well,
I
and, like
think.
your world keeps going, but mine stopped.
Right.
Mhm.
My whole world stopped, and it is still stopped. I spend most of my time alone, to be honest. Like
Right.
I don't even have a social life. I am with my kid, or I'm at work, or I'm
Mhm.
hermiting, because that's what I do. But I
Mhm.
don't. I just feel like everyone has it, because especially because I just like went back to work right away, and I did all this stuff. I think people just like saw it as like she's strong, she's good, but nobody has seen it as a cry for help when it clearly was. I ran myself
Right.
into the ground when Dom died. Ran myself ragged. I worked in the morning for 5 hours from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and drove 3.5 hours away to go look at his dead body on a table just to drive back immediately to go to work the next day. I didn't take any time. And maybe I should have, because I just think that everyone just saw me like pick up, move on, and go.
Mhm. And you did. You
Right.
just were constantly. I didn't want to. I'm like, it was hard to, because I wanted to make sure you were okay. But God, when that happened, like I would think about things, and then I would think about your hurt, and then I'm a crier, dude. I'm a crier. I'm like,
I know.
I would call you and just I'm like, okay, don't cry. Stay strong. She is going through it. Do not cry, you know? And it was so hard. The minute she started like talking about it, I'm like, I'm sorry. I gotta go. Because it's like I didn't want to make you go into, you know, you got all these things going on today. But it's like, God, I just wanted to check in on you. But you did. You did just like
I
surround
masked
yourself
it
with
so
everything
well.
that distracted you. You did. But
No one,
there's a
like,
point
I hardly
also
cried in
that
front of anyone.
do you think that
I,
you are well, obviously you're still healing from this. I mean, it's going to take a long time. I mean, there's what do you think that I don't know. I feel like a big part of your healing journey too was doing what you set out to do still. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know that Dominic's so proud of you.
Yeah.
better be. I
Yeah.
followed through with all of our plans.
And if you're not, then we're fighting. No.
Yeah. Don't turn off my lights
Um,
tonight.
yeah. So on the grief, I do feel like everybody processes that very differently. Like I mean, I feel like I had a real similar experience with that where it was just like I just kind of like one trauma after another. I was going through everything with my ex-husband, just all the trauma that comes from loving an addicted person, you know. And I was finally finding that strength to set those boundaries and be like, no, you're not going to come here. You're not going to ruin my day. You're not like, cause he'd like come home and accuse me of crazy stuff. And like, it would just be this fight. It like totally messed up the energy. You know what I mean? And, so I finally was like finding the strength. And then I get a phone call that my dad died and he had a kidney disease. He was very sick. It was a possibility at really any time, but he was waiting for a kidney transplant. So there was still that hope. And so when I got the call, I don't think I cried for like 3 days until I was like there in Spokane going through his stuff, all this stuff. And even after that, you know, my dad died. I was in the middle of divorcing my ex-husband. We were fighting the beauty school because the owner was stealing our financial aid money. My best friend, my childhood best friend, died 3 months after my dad to an overdose. And I'm like just going through all this at the same time. And I just I didn't pause. And it's crazy because the first time I actually remember feeling that grief of him passing, he passed in December. And I don't remember when we graduated, D. You were like maybe a month before me, but we were close. I don't know if you remember, but it was when we graduated school and I wasn't even expecting it. I was driving to school that day just to check in and do everything normal. And I thought to myself, I was like, oh, I wish I could. I was like, oh, I want to call my dad and talk. I'm so excited to do this. And then it hit me. I'm like, I can't call him. I can't tell him about like this thing I finally did for myself. And like he would have been so proud because I spent so much time struggling and just all these things. And it just hit me. I cried all morning on my way to school. Like, 'cause I'd always leave early and go drive and whatever. It's crazy how it hits you. And to this day, I have moments where like my daughter does something amazing I want to share with him and it just hits me. And I feel like as we get older, we're going to grieve everything differently. You know, when you're a grandmother, you're going to grieve that for your grandchildren that they didn't get to know their grandfather. And like, you know, it's like this, it's a continual thing. So to have the expectation of yourself that it's ever going to just go away or be okay is completely unrealistic in my opinion. Cause, and people will tell you, oh, it gets better with time. I think you learn how to manage it in time. You learn ways to kind of appropriately express that emotion. But I don't think it ever goes away, you know?
It doesn't. I mean, with every little thing that my son does that's new, I want to share it with Dom. I made a really cool fruit salad that he would have loved the other day, and I was just like, wow, I really wish that you could be here because he would have thought this was great.
He knows,
He ate the whole
though.
bowl.
He knows,
You know, like,
girl.
but
He knows.
it's
The
just
ones we
little
love
like,
Yeah.
never truly leave us, babe. They don't. They're there, and I know they're there. I've had experiences. I know the spirit, like their shell. Yeah, they're gone. They're not here, but they are. Their spirit is sitting around you, and
Yes.
I've had the experiences where, dude, I used to believe that when we died, it was black. This is it. Until because I'm kind of a believe it when you see it, and I've seen it. I know they're around us. I know they are. I've had experiences where it's not a coincidence. That's you can feel their energy. You know how safe
Right.
you felt when you were around them, or you knew
Right.
this specific moment, their smell, and it's like the most potent smell that comes across, and you can just feel somebody next to you. Like, I felt that. I felt that, and I know for a fact that our loved ones are watching us and sitting with us. They know
Mhm.
exactly what you're doing. I know that
I
for a fact.
I feel like especially like as an empath, because I've like made it my life's lesson to understand energies, my energy, other people's energies, differentiating between them. Because as an empath, and especially as a child empath, I took on all of my family's mental illness struggles, all their stuff. And I didn't understand for a long time that that wasn't my stuff to carry. And so as an empath, like I've worked so hard on recognizing the different, and it's just like you said, Dee, like, cause me and my dad, so my dad lived in Spokane and my mom lived in Montana. So every summer, like 2 or 3 times a year, we would meet at the Silver Dollar Bar. I think it's in Idaho, but it might be in Washington. I can't remember. The 10,000 Silver Dollar place. And I don't know, just road trips and being in the car with my dad is something that it's like one of those things I cherish and I remember. And it's funny because occasionally I'll get into my car when I'm alone and I just feel him there. And then like all of our favorite music comes on. And it's just like, or sometimes I'm going through it and a song that me and my dad loved comes on and I just feel him there. Like he's just giving me a hug. He's loving me. He's sending me all that strength again. And it's just like you have to learn to trust that intuition because society has tried to teach that out of every one of us. Your intuition is wrong, your feelings are right. Lead your life by your feelings because they look at feelings like God. And your feelings aren't God. Feelings are temporary. They come and go, they pass. Energies are what you need to be paying attention to. That energy that you feel within yourself, even that intuition and learning to trust it.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I remember this one when me and my parents went to dinner. It was like a couple months after Dom passed, and my dad had said it was about hunting, and like me and Dom went hunting. Like Dom loved to hunt, and he said, "Well, if you need something from me, don't call me because I will be on the mountain." And I heard Dom's laugh echo through my head for like a good few seconds, just like
Mhm.
his really loud, obnoxious laugh because he loved my dad. He thought he
Right.
was really cool. And
Yeah.
so he was just like, yeah, like he was there. He's always
Right.
here
Right.
talking with
Yeah. I find comfort in that. I really do. Like, and even like it was hard for me because my grandpa was a very good man. He was very like he would have been disappointed and hurt by my addiction. Truly, he would have been more than probably a lot of the people in my family. I mean, everybody was hurt by it. I don't want to say that. But like I looked at because my dad lived in Spokane and my papa was like my dad there. It's where I spent all my time. That was like my father figure. And so when he passed and I was in my addiction, I like came to this place mentally where I found comfort, even though knowing that he was seeing me at truly what I believed to be my ugliest at the time, that he also knew my heart. He knew my intentions. He understood that I didn't want this anymore, that I was trying to change. But I also was that person, like, I wasn't going to cry for help and tell everyone every 5 seconds I needed help. I wasn't going to ask for therapy all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to say it till I knew I was ready, until I knew that that was done and it wasn't going to be a part of my life anymore. Cause I was tired of disappointing people. Because when you disappoint other people, it doesn't make you feel very good either. You know you're disappointing them and you're the one that's in control of your own actions and you still keep doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like it takes a long time sometimes to search within yourself and figure out exactly what it is that's going on, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Dee, I kind of lost track of where we were in our thing, but I did want to touch on some of these comments, but we can wait for that too.
Okay. Yeah, I think I kind of wanted to just get into like we did kind of go into honoring their memory and like it does help to keep the good parts alive and like the experiences we had with the people that we've lost, you know? And I also wanted to just go into I don't know, I
Ooh,
think that it's easy to feel guilt um
yes.
when we lose people too of what we could have done or we should have done this or we should have done that, you know, because shortly after I had my son, you know, I was clean, I was sober, and I had one of a really good friend reach out to me struggling with addiction through a relationship, and you know, I knew she was on one, and she asked me to come to my house. I had a newborn baby, I couldn't allow that. She reached out a couple times and I couldn't. Those were my boundaries. I couldn't have somebody in active addiction in my home. And then a couple weeks after I got a phone call that she had passed. And she actually committed suicide. God, it sucks, dude. Grieving that and then feeling guilt on top of it, you know, and learning to like you have to be in a really dark spot for that type of stuff. And losing people to addiction, we think that we could help, but at the end of the day, nobody's can help them until they help themselves. Truly.
Oh,
You can be
no.
there, you can love them, you can support them, whatever, but until they are ready, there's nothing you can do, you know? And I think that's so important to touch on because I think about that all the time. I've had 2 people that were close to me in my life that had committed suicide. I've had people that have overdosed. I have, you know, and to not be able to do anything, like it eats at you some days, you know? What if I would have just done this? You have to let
Right.
go of that. You have to let go of the what ifs, what could have been, what, you know, like I know it's cruel, and you know what? I have a hard time believing that everything happens for a reason, or when it's your time, it's your time. I just think that stuff happened, you know, and it sucks, and we have to sit on this earth and live through the pain and hear it and hurt from it. But um, we'll understand the reason one day. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's hard to wrap your head around because how dare you take those people? How dare you? They take the best people,
Yeah.
you know, that are just struggling.
Right.
But just like keeping their memory alive, like I try not to talk about like just like the this state of they were in. Like we have to keep the great things that we remember about them and like
Yeah.
keep alive and continue telling the funny stories. I don't care if you're tired of hearing the same story. I'm gonna tell it because it makes me laugh and it makes me
Yeah.
remember like this beautiful human, you know. And I'm sure they're right there laughing with you, you know. So just
Right.
being able to like honor them, do things like tributes to them in memory, forgiving
Some little
yourself.
things Some of the little things that we do, like for my grandpa, every year, because he passed away right before New Year's. Or it was like New Year's Eve, but it was like at 11:49. It was like insane. It was literally right on that cusp. But we have a candle that we light every year, once a year on his anniversary and of his passing. But I really look at those days more as, like you said, Dee, I take that as a time to, even if I'm sad, I sit with that feeling. I'll cry if I need to, I'll do whatever. But I also try and think of all the reasons that I loved them and all the happy, funny things. And not to like discount that there was ever bad times, but like, I don't know. I just losing so many people so young also has been an experience for me where I've looked at it as an opportunity of growth because I didn't talk to my dad for 4 years because of something that I do look at now is pretty trivial in the grand scheme of things now that he's gone. You know what I mean? And so if I'm in a deep argument or if I'm really upset with somebody who I truly love, I take a second step back now and I say, is this worth my relationship with them? Does this relationship do more harm than good? And is there a resolution that we can reach? Because that pain hits me so deep every day. Those what ifs, those I wish you were here's, those moments that you wish you could call him. Because I'm telling you, to this day, I'll have a moment where I'm like, oh, I should call my dad. And I can't, you know, it's like this. I don't know, like sometimes you're very aware of the fact they're gone and other times it's just still such an instant thought. You know what I mean? But another thing that we do occasionally when our family gets together is we'll do lanterns. We like to do like write a message on lanterns. We like that for the littles too so that they can write something and then you let the lantern go on that day and take that time to like barbecue with your family and you know, tell all the amazing stories, you know, remember them. Don't let them, you know, don't shove them down into a box and sit in the pain. Remember the good, you know.
Sadie, we did the lanterns, and instead of doing like a full-on funeral where people get together at, you know, do you want to talk about that? Let's talk about his memorial. My son tried to twerk at his memorial.
Oh my
He grabbed
gosh.
the,
Oh my
he
gosh.
grabbed the mic.
It's so funny. I really quick, just so my friend Rachel one time, I had Rowan over, or me and Dee, I don't know. Rowan was over at my house though, and he was all shaking his butt off. He's always done it. It's so funny. And Rachel was like, "Is that Dee's kid?" It's so funny because she just knew. And me and Dee were talking about this, and it's so funny because it's not like Dee is twerking in front of her son. She's not. She's not a weirdo, you know.
No,
It's
yeah,
like
I do not do that. I hate when people say, "Oh, if he got it from his mom," I'm like, "No, he didn't."
just because you're a good butt shaker, I think
No.
it's a genetic thing. I'm not a good butt shaker neither.
I'll take that generational curse over addiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we
Okay,
just have the
Sadie.
generational curse of good butt shaking instead?
Yeah. But Sadie, going to the memorial, how was it for you to? I know it was still hard. It was still new. It was still fresh, you know. But we did the lanterns and things like that.
The lanterns were good. I think that was the only time that I cried that day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really I didn't know a lot. Like I mean, I knew a lot of people. I like knew all of his family, but I didn't know quite a bit of them. And I'm not like a social butterfly. Okay, I don't fucking flap my wings out there. I flap my wings inside.
Yeah.
And so it was just I felt very kind of out of place a little bit. I think it was good. It was really nice to see like everyone who didn't ever really get along that
Just
day.
come together
because
and yeah.
Dom deserved that. I just wish that it could have continued.
That's the
I wish
first
that
time
we
I
could
walked
still
in.
all be living in honor of Dom and not resorting back to the same hateful things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because it was
thank
really
God
nice
we
that everyone could come together and it wasn't
The moment.
I hate this person because they did this 100 million years
Right.
there's
ago,
no
or I hate
fighting,
this
everybody
person. Let's
hugged
just
each
talk
other.
crap. It wasn't that. It was just like everyone just had love because somebody we all loved was no longer with us.
Yeah, that's the first time I've
And-
walked into that family where they've had open arms.
Yeah. I mean, it was really nice, and like
It was beautiful.
I've seen some people grow from that, but I've also seen just the same stuff happening, and it saddens my little heart. But I'm still close with quite a few people in his family, and I feel very fortunate for that.
And
Yeah.
what are you doing something with his jeans or something, Sadie? Were you doing something for like
Eventually,
memory of him?
when Har's old enough, I'm gonna get her a quilt made out of his jeans because
Oh.
I gave away. We like all have shirts and sweatshirts of his. All of us, his mom, his sister, me, and his daughter. We all have stuff of his. Well, we can't wear his jeans, and they're
Right.
dirty because they were working. So I just have a whole tub of jeans waiting to be made into a quilt for his daughter when she's a little bit older.
I love that
That's
that you're
beautiful.
so thoughtful in that too. It's just such a mom thing. Like it's like you're even thinking about that comfort for her later in life, you know, when she's an adult woman, like in my situation, exactly. Like I'm an adult woman who lost my dad I mean, I was much older, but at 22, and that's young. Most people
Yeah.
get to be with their parents until their 40s and 50s. You know, and so like just being, if I, you know, it gives me a good idea actually that you said that. I'm like, that would be so great just to have something made out of his clothing, to like hold on to in those moments. Cause there's going to be times where she grieves that, where she cries, where she feels that pain. And to have that, that's just such a beautiful gift. That's like
It's a lot of
such a
comfort.
heartfelt thing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Dad was her favorite person.
Right. But even like speaking on just like living in honor of that person, like what my best friend, I know I kind of touched on that. He passed. And you know, that was another hard thing for me. I feel like I can relate to you on that because I was out of my active addiction, but I was still with my first husband, and he was very like controlling with who I talked to and like things like that. And so I was no longer allowed to talk to Darren, and he was in active addiction, so I did have to have boundaries up because I loved him so much. I loved him so much. He was like, he's actually like, I would just say he was the person who taught me what love is in a lot of ways, both in friendship and like, and then we tried to be together. But then I think that maybe we were just always kind of meant to be friends. He's the one friend I had that I ever dated that was still my best friend for the rest of my life, his life,
Yeah.
you know, and he overdosed. He was from Kalispell. He was here in Billings, and he overdosed in the back of someone's car. And they found out because they got pulled over. And they found him in the back seat. They weren't going to the hospital. Like, I don't know. I think they were just driving. I don't know what happened. But like, even just speaking on the what ifs, I felt so much guilt over that for a long time. I'm like, what if I would have been more available to him? Would he have reached out to me instead? Would he have called me? Would he have, you know what I mean? And that can just be so hard.
I mean, I think about if I didn't leave him 8 years ago.
Right.
Maybe if I had been, and it's hard because I had to be selfish in that moment because I live
Right.
for other people. That is just what I do. I like to take care of
Right.
other
That's
people.
not selfish though. That's not
No.
selfish though.
I know,
not
but it
selfish.
feels selfish. You know, it feels
Right.
I
especially
know.
now.
Right.
that he's dying.
Absolutely. Especially
I'm
now.
like, well, could I, like, if I had stuck around instead of saying sayonara, weirdo, like I have to go because you're tweaker peeking out the windows and I can't handle it anymore. Like, instead of doing that, if I had really pushed the envelope on it, would it have made a difference? Because
Right.
I also feel like I take some responsibility because he wasn't, I guess, really using that much when we got together. We drank and I was like, I have meth at my house. Do you want to go do it? And then he didn't stop. And I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And I
Right.
can't do it
Well,
anymore.
and
because you're
learning
here.
to I feel like once you learn to even though it's never your fault. Because everybody has their own battles and struggles, and some of it just it takes people differently, you know. I when we were talking about this a little earlier, I used to always have like horrendous nightmares of like the guilt. The guilt ate me alive, dude. The guilt ate me alive with Amber, with Alex, and even with my grandmother. I was in my addiction when she passed, and um, I remember I had this one dream, and I always have dreams of her, um, like finding her house and like going in, and she's like, "You forgot about me, you left me," and like just this, you know. And once I like started to release that and forgive myself, and like, because I did make choices, but to have an understanding for myself and give myself grace for those type of things, and especially when it comes to um, Dominic, and like having the boundaries with yours, Mariana, and Amber, and having those boundaries that we set for themselves. Like, it's so important to realize that it wasn't selfish on our part. You know, we did it. We're sitting here today after active addiction, after trauma, abusive relationships, dysfunctional family, all of these type of things, and we're sitting here and we're telling other people about it. And if you are battling with addiction right now, if you're listening to what our story is like, we just want to say like you're loved, and it's not too late. Like, get the help, reach out. People are listening, people will hear you, find the right support. And the people that um still have a loved one struggling with addiction, remember that setting boundaries is not a sign of giving up, but
Right.
a way to protect our own well-being. It's important to take care of yourself while loving them through their journey. While addiction can feel overwhelming, never lose hope. Recovery is possible, um, and change can happen. You know, and unfortunately, sometimes it ends up on the wrong side of things. You know, but support your support to your loved ones and patience and loves can make a difference. um, just remember to take the moments for yourself and know that you don't have to carry that burden alone. You know, there's people, you know, I posted the Al-Anon. Those are support groups for families that are dealing with others' addiction. We have the AA or the NA helpline. There are lots of groups and lots of people that have dealt with every side of addiction and mental health that are willing to listen and do hear your story, you know?
Absolutely. Um, Sorry, I'm just going through the comments really quick. Um, Absolutely, Dee. Sorry, I really agree with that, and just like not being afraid to reach out and talk with people. Like, Al-Anon is such a good program if you have a loved one in addiction, because it helps teach you healthy ways to set boundaries that are good for you and the other person. Because sometimes in the, when they're in front of you begging for money because they're in pain, because they're withdrawing, it's going to be hard to say no. You know what I mean? And so there's support for those exact situations. And it's, I know that there's a stigma behind it and all of this stuff, but these people understand all that, and that's what they're there for. We're here to help heal each other. So I really recommend, if you're struggling with that, or with what boundaries are good boundaries to set with a loved one who's experiencing addiction or mental health problems, I think that that's a really great resource.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to wrap it up with, Sadie?
Um,
But thank you for sharing your story too. Really, thanks for jumping on
it,
here and being
I
willing
think
to
it's
open
really
this up.
important
And
to touch light on these kind of situations, because people go through it every day. And there are people struggling with addiction or people who are struggling with basically grieving somebody who's alive, but who isn't there anymore. And I
Right.
think it's helpful to know like people are out here and they're all living kind of like the same life, because I know it's hard for me. I don't know any 27-year-olds that have lost the love of their life. So it's really
Yeah.
hard for like me to connect with somebody on that level, because I should have been 80 years old when my love died. You know, we should have lived a whole life together. And I
Right.
feel like I'm starting from square one. So like knowing that there are other people out there that understand this is helpful.
Right. Before we get off, I just want to touch on some of these comments, Dee. And just kind of like you just said, Sadie, Linda said it feels good to know others get it and been there and have done that. Support and the feeling we are a family here. And that's one thing I love about this chat. You guys seriously rock. And that's why, you guys are a part of us feeling comfortable bringing people like Sadie on to share their experience, because, we trust that you guys are so understanding and loving and here to support not just us, but each other. And we appreciate that so much from you guys. It's like we say, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. It's my biggest thing. And like Dee said, Sadie, like kudos to you for being that safe place for Dom too, because he didn't know that before. And it's like, this is how we break that stigma. This is how people heal, is by telling their stories and letting all that stuff out. Because if you don't think that a woman, or a father even, or like somebody who's addicted to drugs and does those drugs around their kids feels guilt for that when they're sober, or, there's like all these things, and no one's going to be harder on you than yourself. So offering that love and support and that safe place for somebody is the best thing that you can really do for them, in my opinion. Even if it's not giving them money, if it's not, giving them a ride to their dealer's house, be like, you know what, I can't do that, but I can sit here and talk with you. I can sit here for, I can be here for you. Let's talk this through. Where are you at mentally? How can I help? And I think that that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
I was reading the comments.
Oh, you're
Jessica
okay.
Phelps said, off topic, but you look so good, Mariana.
Oh, I do? Okay, no, thank you. We love Jessica. Jessica, I've never had a real life like cheerleader, but Jessica is like, she loves me, and every time that like me and my husband post a picture or anything, she's like, I love you guys, you're the greatest. Like, she just like loves us as a couple. It's like so cool. She's she's like, I always feel like she's my little cheerleader. I just love her. Jessica's the greatest. Linda said, love, Sadie, sending you so much love. Also, I accidentally unstarred some, but there was a bunch where people said that you look very beautiful, Sadie, as well.
Thank you.
When we were on the topic of, the prison system and how messed up all that is, Ian had said you would think it would cost much less short time and long term placing people in rehab than a cell. A 12-week program has to be cheaper than a 1 to 5 year sentence. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Our system is, there's treatment facilities and stuff, but sticking somebody in there for 30 days and then sticking them back out on the streets, I'll keep referring to what me and Mariana's dream is, to open great facilities for mental health, addiction, people that have gone through trauma, DV, men's mental health, all of it. Like, open up beautiful shelters to implant hope in people, to give them the hope and like what you need to see in the mirror to know that like we can all thrive. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We can all make this life beautiful, and it doesn't have to be dark. It doesn't have to go the way that we've been going, like breaking the cycles for other people and helping them find the things that they love and getting them work and providing them with hope. You're out on the streets and you have absolutely nothing. It's hard to go get this, get a car, get a job, get an ID, get like all of it, all these little things that we don't even realize that we should be grateful for. Like, it's so hard for people to just get basic needs. when you start from absolutely nothing and you've gone through addiction, trauma, mental health, whatever, but I mean, that's why we're here. That's our big dream, is to be able to take this podcast on a whole nother level, and provide safe places for people.
And I do think that going forward, me and Dee have kind of touched on this. I don't know, I haven't figured out logistics, but for like Suicide Awareness Month, we'd like to start doing fundraisers where we would like to link it directly to a website or like an institute that helps with those things. And then as a community, we want to fundraise for those months and just see how many donations we can get in remembrance of people, in remembrance of our loved ones for the Addiction Awareness Month. We're probably going to start fundraising for a lot of those things. So that's something that you guys can kind of start looking for moving forward. I think that the Suicide Prevention Month will probably be our first one that we do. But we're really excited to start being a part of that change, and we do want to set it up so it gets donated directly to the foundation. So there's no, we don't want there to be any weirdness or questions on if money gets donated or whatever. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Let's see.
Right.
Ian said, saying it's a choice, as in addiction is a choice. He said, saying it's a choice is missing the person's complete life story, in my opinion. If you've not walked in their shoes, then do not judge them.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
It's so hard to hear people be like, oh, they're just this, or it's so irritating, because I'm like, God, if you knew
Well, and
me.
I remember being in active addiction and having certain people be just awful to me, just disgusting human beings. And the sad reality is now I see them and they're addicted to fentanyl
Mm-hmm.
because they once told me that addiction was a choice and I chose, which, yeah, but we're all one trauma away from being an addict, in my opinion.
Yep.
We're all one event away. We're all one prescription away. We're all one tiny choice when we're drunk or
there's
when
so
we're
many-
whatever.
yeah.
It literally isn't as black and white as, oh, you chose to pick up a meth pipe and twirl it, and now you're an addict and you're
Right.
disgusted. It's not that.
Right.
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 Yeah, there's a lot of reasons of why we do the things we do, why we numb, why we thought it was okay to party like that. There's just, generational stuff. Again, if you're just hopping on here, if you are or rewatch crew, we kind of go over some of the facts with fentanyl and Narcan, how to spot somebody that is overdosing. And we've also provided throughout our podcast some phone numbers and stuff, helplines for support groups, addiction, things like that.
Yeah.
James, I like that too. Oh,
Shannon said, everyone grieves different. I totally get it. My boyfriend overdosed and it took me a long time to even function somewhat normal again.
yeah. James said, I know when I was a child, I didn't say, when I grow up, I want to be a drug addict.
Absolutely.
And
Nobody thinks that.
I mean, that's so real. Yeah. Nobody.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't even realize it until you're out of it. You know what I mean? I never had a problem when I was using.
I have a friend that.
No.
Right.
I could
Go
just,
ahead, Sadie.
I was in the closet one. I was very picky about who I got high around, so no one could say I did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I have a friend who is a mental health professional and she works with addicts, and she tells me all the time, because we talk about this stuff often. She's like, I've never had a client come to me and be like, I started using drugs so that I could lose my kids and my job and my life and my house and my finances and be homeless. It's really what I wanted in life. Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that's where it's going when you start. You're numbing a feeling. I always say addiction is a subcondition of mental health, and I'll stand on all 10 toes on that till the day I die, because I'm telling you, as someone who's been through a lot of that, and my drug of choice was meth, but I really, and I think I'm unique in this perspective. I don't have a lot of cravings anymore. I really don't. Once I started working on my mental health, and it's kind of like you said, Sadie, I see that little girl and it's not even a thought in my head. Even the thought of getting high, I've trained my brain for the immediate next thought to be what it would be like to see Hazley after that.
Mm-hmm.
And that fixes it for me. I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and I feel like that's the installed, because getting clean is not pretty. It's not like you just snap out of it and it's back to reality. You're grieving, you're going through trauma, you're feeling, and like
it takes
when
2
that
years.
hope gets installed and you see something different in yourself, and that you have endless opportunities, like you don't think like that when you're in addiction. You don't. And like once you see that in yourself too, like I just feel like it's a whole different ballgame for me personally, But
Right.
I've also done the dumb things of, well, I don't feel like I'm going to full blown go and put a needle in my arm again, and do this. But since it's not as hard as what I used to, I'll do a little coke, and God humbled me real quick with that. Really quick with that, going back into those like little thoughts, and I've honestly struggled with doing, continue to do dumb things, because I don't think that I'm going to go in full blown addiction, and maybe I wasn't, but the outcome, what you could lose potentially because of it, it's not worth it, dude. I have so much to live for and so much to work, like to be here for. I have a little human looking up to me, and that's it just can't be a part of my life,
Right. Sherry LeBron said crying is healing. I agree. Letting a good cry out sometimes is just what you need. It really is. Like just that deep, like I actually I got a text message. I sent a poem to my aunt who raised me with no expectation of like receiving any kind of feedback, anything like that. And she sent me this message that just of like basically not really apologizing, but just saying like, sorry if I ever caused you any harm, and I love you so much. And I try to tell people all the time about all these good memories we had, but no one laughs as hard as me because they don't understand it, and like all this stuff. And let me tell you guys, I ugly cried in the shower because this woman has been homeless for a long time, addicted to drugs. I've grieved the loss of that person in my life, right? Because she's just not around. And so to get that out of somebody in active addiction was shocking to me. I wasn't expecting it. And I was so taken aback, and I didn't realize how much my soul was craving that validation, and just that, like, and even if it's like, hey, I did the best I can, and I'm sorry if that wasn't enough for you. Like, I understand that as an adult woman with a child. I understand the complexities of raising children now. I understand the complexities of all that. And I feel for her in a lot of ways, even if what it was she did hurt me as a child. It's like you have this different perspective at some point, but not to go off on a whole nother tangent. But
that also just shows too, like just that little like outreach of like, I did appreciate you, and I do remember the laughs. Like that probably it did affect her on a whole nother level for her to respond like that when you've got bare minimum. You know what I mean? It strikes something in her. And if we can just do that for anybody, like one little thing that you heard that was like, dang.
Right.
Maybe I should think, you know what I mean? And turn it around, or get some comfort when we're dealing with other people in their addiction,
Right. Also, I really loved this. James Collins said that these 3 women are sheroes, strong female heroes. We're sheroes, guys. We should have. Can we edit? I'm like, that's gonna be James. That's gonna be a new title. You can expect to see that soon. It's like the 3 Musketeers, but it's the 3 sheroes.
Yes, I love that. Can we do like the AI with like the Superman things with just our heads on it like this?
Yeah. And then also Sadie, Ian said that it's a really thoughtful idea and have such power meaningful to her, I'm sure, about the quilt. And then James Collins also said that it was a great. I've never really thought of that. I'm so glad that you said that because it's such a beautiful idea. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is.
I know. Did I miss anything, Dee? I don't think so. Is there anything that you wanted to put up there?
I just, John, me and him are gonna fight one day.
I know. It's so funny. Yeah, he's cracking me up. Okay. Do you have that?
Also with the crying thing because he has. Oh, okay.
No, I was just gonna ask you if you have because normally I can see the stuff that's gonna be presented and I don't see for the outro video.
It's in our outro. I just have to.
Oh, it is? Okay. Oh, okay. See, guys, Dee is like the technical advisor of this podcast.
You go.
What'd you
girl.
say, Dee?
I'd be learning all the things. But again, we appreciate you. Please make sure before you leave, you like, you share, you subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach whole different viewers, people that are struggling. This is what we're here to do. And hopefully we see more people in the chat next time, looking for that hope, that comfort, to be heard. That's why we're here. And Sadie, thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for in the chat be chatting. We love all of you guys. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you Sunday.
We're doing Sunday? Okay.
Sunday evening.
Sunday fun day.
Look for our
thumbnail.
What is it called on YouTube?
Thumbnail. I think.
The thumbnail.
I don't know. That's what we're calling it, though. All right, everybody.
Okay, so I'm going to take us all off the stage, and we will end with some of the pictures of our loved ones that we have lost.